Bill Turner, it's about time. I don't know if that's going to catch on. That's the name of the show because I was like, maybe.
You got to start
I
somewhere.
don't know. It's a little. I am extremely flattered and very excited to welcome our guests, Bill and Turner.
Happy to be here. This is episode number 1, right?
Yes, first time for everything. We're filming in the Kentucky Theater.
Ground floor.
I didn't know this was legal. But here we
In
are.
fact, in the green room, which seems really primed to welcome famous guests someday.
About Time, that's the title?
Yes,
That's fantastic.
but I only got 20 minutes.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Sure.
So shut up.
No wormholes, Bill.
First off, I just want to say anybody who doesn't know, you all are not originally from Lexington, Kentucky.
No.
Where are you from originally?
We were born in Ohio.
Born and raised in a small town called Sydney, Ohio. Eventually, our whole family migrated down to New Orleans, where we've been for the second half of our lives.
Nice. So, what brings you to Lexington? Other than
Well, you, I think.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
you and yours.
I have that reputation, yeah.
We were asked by Transy to come up and talk and show the movie.
And we're very glad you did. And I'll say, so the film that you're showing tonight in the Kentucky Theater is Gasoline Rainbow. There it is.
There
I
you
always say
go.
Rainbow Gasoline. That's something different. It's diesel. I think that it's incredible that you all came from just two brothers who loved making films together, and so you said, "Hey, we're going to make films together. That's what we're going to do." I think it's inspiring. I just wanted to say that out there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What other films have you done in the past?
Before this, we had a film called Bloody Nose, Empty Pockets that came out in 2020, right before the world shut down. Honestly, we were thankful that the film actually, played in a couple theaters before we were all locked up. And, I know a lot of filmmakers, a lot of films that didn't get to see the light of day because what went on. So
Right.
anyway, that did that one, and then
We're currently in pre-production on what will be our 7th commercial feature.
Wow.
We've been working our whole lives together, creatively. We make all kind of shit, but in terms of going through the process of, start to finish, conception, idea, execution, articulation, putting it out in the world, marketing,
Right.
we're working on our 7th. Gasoline Rainbow being our last and 6th. And yeah, I mean, it's a continuation of a long conversation that we've had with each other, and an evolution of our techniques and ideas, and always trying to be better in all directions, as we say to each other.
Yeah. And I feel like when you're working with someone as close as you are, like brothers, like literally blood, you get to know a lot about that person. I feel like that's pretty self-explanatory. But what are some things that you didn't know necessarily before you started, like the process of there's a difference between home film and film like Gasoline Rainbow that takes 3 years to execute. What are some differences in just creating film for the fun of it? Well, I guess it is always for the fun of it, but creating a film sort of without restrictions or, I guess, guidelines, and creating something that is going to be displayed.
No one's ever asked us that. That's really good. That's good. Right? I don't think
It is good, and
Let's go.
I think Bill usually answers that question before it's ever asked. I think the real answer to that is not what we've learned or accumulated, but what we need to continuously unlearn, so that we get back to that state
I love
of
that.
being naive and playful.
I love that.
And not giving a fuck about how
That's
things.
the hardest part is obviously by doing you learn so much, but it's actively trying to unlearn and be naive and be open and curious and childlike, really. And that's hard. That's really, really hard. So it's to be dumb again is like the goal.
But we try to do it in both directions, so that it becomes even broader. It's like technically we can get better. We can get better about collaborating with others. We can, understand more about why we do the things that we do. Really harness all the skills and wisdom, that time accrues. But then to also try in those scenarios to be as simple, joyful present as possible.
But the question's more specific, which I like, is what did you learn about me in a professional context rather than us just around and having fun?
If I could add in for a
Please.
second, just to clarify, I guess, for my mind, is there a huge difference? Like, are you all working under a certain? I guess when you submit something to get funded, there are going to be people that are like, "Oh, this is what you submitted. This is what we want." But I will say, what's lovable about your or Gasoline Rainbow specifically, it's pretty much the promo or Bloody knows, like the promotion that you made was like, we don't know what it's going to look like, and that's the beauty of it. We're just going to go film it, and I think that's awesome. But also, are there those people that say like, I guess, is there more strict guidelines when you are filming now as opposed to then, and then that kind of carries into
No, we never embark on anything where anybody else has the opportunity to impose authorship or restrictions.
Sure, but there is because there is money involved. There is a responsibility.
We have an accountability. I mean, every time we pitch a film, I'll start backwards. We don't pitch anything to anyone that we can't execute. We never promise anything to anybody that we can't do. We always lay out what we're going to do, and the end result does resemble that, but nothing that is really truly revelatory about it is on that paper, is in that budget, is part of that pitch. That's the act of discovery that is such a crucial part of our process, which jumps back to your previous question, which is, I don't know that there's one thing that I could point to that I learned about my brother as if I hired him for a job and then discovered more about him. We've literally been doing this together our entire lives. I think it's really incredible to see weaknesses removed, to see strengths grown, to see evolution had, growth happen. At this point, there's just an intrinsic trust there that you really couldn't hire, buy, concoct. Like when we first started out doing this, we were doing it so internally that when we realized all of a sudden we were thrown into public speaking about it, Bill used to turn green and puke every time we went on a stage.
You're really good at it.
I like you.
Yeah. I mean, the first film did well, and so all of a sudden we were thrust into this thing and being asked in public, how we did it, whatever, and oh man, I was not prepared for that.
I will say, I was horrified of even because I was sitting there. So they came to Translate, and I was sent an email. I was like, "Hey, the director of this film, Kentucky Theater, are going to be at your school," and I'm like, "I live there. I go there. That's me." And so then I went in and I talked to y'all, and y'all were incredibly nice. And then you showed me some of your work, and I don't know what came over me, but in the back of my mind, I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna ask him." And then I did, and I don't know why. That's the hard part. Getting this human interaction. This is what I live for, and I did. And this isn't an autobiography. You're all my guests, so I'll shut up after this. But
it's your podcast, man.
I did theater. I was just in Pride and Prejudice for Transy, and I find I have reverse stage fright. I get scared when there's only one or two people, or it doesn't matter if I know them or not. But if there's an audience of 100 people, lights go on in my brain, and I'm this is where I belong. And so my energy's higher. I thrive off of audience participation. Actually, I can transfer to another question. Or do you want to answer the?
No, go for it.
Okay. How do you feel when you have this film? It's your child. When you spent so long on it, how do you feel? Because I know some artists you choose to always look at feedback and see what happens. Some artists is I don't want to know. What are your takes?
So when the film is out, because
right.
The only reason I ask is we also ask some of our peers while we're making it.
I guess that's a good question too.
While we're editing,
really try to open up the process
to give notes. But yeah, I guess those are two different questions. But to answer yours, unless it's sent to me, I really try to avoid it. I don't really think it does you any good. I mean, when our first film came out, I was like, "Oh my God, we have a movie that people are reviewing," and
shit's terrible.
It just ruins your day, because the only one you remember is the bad one.
Right.
And there might be 100 good ones, But there's another side of that, though, which is once the film is done and out there, it's not the end of our engagement. So much of what we have been able to continue to do is predicated on our engagement with the work and the conversation and the audience that it accrues. So being able to go out into the world to help usher in the conversation, to engage with people who are interested, and to learn from that feedback and that discourse and have new experiences, that all goes into the next one. And the next time we put out something new, there's going to be a new audience. But some of those folks are going to be there too, which has a continuity of story. We have an understanding of this being not one thing, but, you know, a legacy of conversations, an ongoing conversation. So in that sense, we do very much engage. In the other, no. I mean, once the film is done, the film is done. And
Right.
hopefully we get good critical response. The commercial thing has never been the priority, but you do hope investors make their money back. And,
Right.
you know, and the more people watch it, it really is exponential in terms of getting theater traction and viewership. So it's on our minds, but it's never the intention.
Right. And you mentioned audience. I want to ask, for your films, is there ever, like, I think I know the answer to the question, but is there ever like a targeted demographic or like people that you want to reach specifically?
No, I was having this conversation with somebody in your class yesterday. It's, you know, I think you get taught that you should think about audience when you're writing, when you're every step of the way. And I just don't even know who that is. And the films always are born out of something that we want to see, that we haven't seen before, images or folks on screen. And so we try to be really true to that. I mean, you hope that people like it, but I feel like if we went for that, you would just
it's what this
get stuck.
it's what the system tells you you're supposed to do, and it's why we live in a world of content, because people create content for an audience, to feed an audience, to expand an audience, to make more money, to make more content. If we're really true to what we do, you know, like we have our own heroes, our own mantras. For years, we had a picture of Thelonious Monk on the wall. Don't play what the people want, play what you want. Because I've always been attracted to artists who just couldn't not make the thing that was a part of them.
Right.
It's like something they just had to vomit out of their soul. Like, holy shit, that is really, you know, they're not making that for an audience. They're making that because they couldn't live if they didn't.
Right.
That is art. That's exciting. That's what we got into this for. So if we know that if the end goal is to try our best to achieve the articulation of something that is inexpressible for us, it'll find its people.
It might be one person,
and that's
but
fine.
like somebody will have had a similar experience where they'll be like, "Holy shit! I've never had that relayed to me."
But that kind of shit found us, and that's why we're doing this. You know, like each of us had our experiences. Collectively, we had our experiences, but something jumped out of the world at us, grabbed us, and pulled us in. So yeah, if that's one person in an audience, I'm that person.
Right.
That's all right.
Have you considered motivational speaking?
I think we do a
let's
lot
go
of it
freaking make a film. Let's do that. I'm like on a high right now.
Yeah, well, the cool thing that we did with you all here, and we've been talking about it, you know, we came and talked to the classes here yesterday. That's been 24 hours ago. In an hour, we'll show a film that we all made together. You have to actually believe what the you're talking about. Yesterday, we showed up and said, yeah, by any means necessary. If you have an idea, either fuck up or die trying, you know, like do it. Just try it. Figure out how to do it. So yesterday, with a bunch of cell phones and some editing software and a few ideas and some enthusiasm, all our voices will be heard tonight.
Right.
That's cool. What could you do with that if you had a month? What could you do with that if you had a whole crew working on it? It's like, yeah, you have an idea, figure out how to make it live and breathe. And then it's something that's existing in the world. So I don't know.
We just get passionate about it. I mean, like,
And I love that.
if we were talking to you about like our second film, we would not have this level of confidence.
So I want to talk to you about
But
your
we've done
second
it-
film.
That's fine. But we've done it long enough that, you know, I think we've started to believe the words that we say.
Better, yeah.
And for the long run now.
Yeah.
You mentioned the film, and that we all created together, or the short film, but there were 3 prompts, and one of the prompts was, what is the problem with our generation? And so I took that as like, I really like, I drove to baseball, and then I announced for a baseball team, and I was like really trying to like figure out how to form the words to express how I was thinking, I guess. And I think one of the best things about our generation is we are united in a way that I don't think has been united before. Like, we live in a time where you can be anything, you can do whatever you want, and you, much like you all break away from a mold, or say like, here's a script, you've got to follow to it, or here's set guidelines. You said no. Why? Because we don't want to. There's not anybody who's going to criticize you for that. And as you're seeing now, there's success in that. And like you said, there are going to be people that find that inspiring and motivational. But I guess to turn the tides and flip the table on y'all, what do you like? How are your thoughts on your generation specifically? I guess, how does that format into the form of being a film creator? And how does that, I don't want to ask your all's ages, but just at this point in your life, how does, I guess, what you see around you impact your film processing? I feel like it's a deep question too.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a lot to think about there. With folks that we I mean, we sort of joined into a thing, once our first film was out. But I don't know, like, I see a lot of people, and good for them, like, if you can get the money, get the money. But a lot and it's not them, it's the industry, but we're seeing a lot of art not get made, and we're seeing a lot of voices be stifled because of capitalism.
Right.
And some of my favorite directors, some of my favorite artists, some of my favorite just fucking smart people. And look, if the lottery's right in front of you, yeah, you do it. But it means that you're making, and I don't say any like, but you're making like superhero movies and shit like that, and that's not advancing us as human beings.
It's feeding back into the system. And yeah, I mean, we're kids of the 80s. We're the children of the boomer generation, and a lot of that was about growth, success, capitalism, the white picket fence version of the American dream, stability, households, like a whole lot of bullshit that was fed to them, that was articulated by them, that would then trickle down to us. And I think a lot of the early music and art that came from the older people of our generation is about trying to shirk that off, saying like, says who, and there are deviations within that, especially as you get older as a generation. We no longer speak for a whole generation. When you're young, yeah, maybe there is a force that commonly unites you, but now, as you approach middle age, people have families, people have careers, people have chosen a path.
Right.
And that field, that spectrum becomes broader. We're unwilling to let go of that thing that we saw. It's like you can't unsee it. Like our producer Carlos is a UFO enthusiast, and once you see that, you can't unsee it, man.
Right.
And once we saw what we saw growing up, you can't unsee it. And like, woe betide the person who does and then resorts to it. So,
but our generation, like when we were growing up, there was a fear of selling out, right? And like that has disappeared.
I mean, I'd love to make some money, honestly, but
yeah, but you're not gonna fucking make Lion King 15, man.
Probably not.
Have you seen the movie Anora? Have you all seen the movie Anora? Florida Project.
Sean Baker's the director.
So he just won the Academy Award for Best Director, and he said something great. He said, "I'm not making these movies to be a calling card so that I can do these things that we're talking about. I want to make independent films. That's what I'm here to do. And
This isn't here to launch.
Tune in to About Time every weekday, the podcast where anything and everything can and will be discussed, but when the 20-minute timer is up, that's it. Thank you so much for spending 20 minutes of your time into 20 minutes of ours. Have a wonderful day, learn something new, follow the golden rule, and use your time wisely.